Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of the Internetic Method podcast. My name is Nicola, and I'm a certified accent reduction coach. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about why accent reduction apps don't really work the way they expect them to, and just maybe my hot take on some of the truth that you need to hear. Now, first and foremost, let's start with what motivated me to talk about the accent reduction apps today. And I have to be honest, I'm a little bit frustrated with the state of things in 2025. A lot of people have been talking about AI power this, AI power that, and it really is becoming a little bit obnoxious to the point where people are not sure what type of application or what type of program can bring them results. I'm all for innovation. However, when buzzwords start to be used as, just something that is going to lure people in to the ecosystem of some kind, I really have an issue with that, especially in the last, let's say 6 months, 6 months to a year. Elsa Speak app as well as the Bold Voice app have been on the rise, and I can't say that everything is bad about them. However, there definitely are some downsides to them, and this is why I wanted to spend a little bit of time in today's episode talking a bit about this. So, the market has really exploded in the last couple of years. Like I said, specifically speaking, 6 to 12 months. And they oftentimes have crazy promises. I mean, they really say stuff like speak like a native in just minutes a day, or perfect your pronunciation in a couple of weeks. And this really, again, is marketing talk. These digital tools seem to offer an affordable, convenient solution to accent challenges, but the reality is that most accent reduction apps simply don't deliver real world results. And how do I know this? Well, I've worked with thousands of professionals in accent modification. I've seen firsthand of the disappointment that people have when they realize that they've invested months in an app that hasn't meaningfully improved their communication. So let's first start off by talking a little bit about why these apps fall short, and then I'd like to address what actually works instead. So first and foremost, there is a visible allure of accent reduction apps, and it's really easy to understand the appeal of it. So first and foremost, there's affordability. Oftentimes, these apps cost a couple of dollars a month, as opposed to hundreds and sometimes even thousands of dollars that people spend on professional coaching. So the affordability factor is important, especially in today's economy. Number two, there is convenience. You really get to practice anytime, anywhere. It's really easy to fit into your busy schedule, and I've even had students tell me that they would practice on their toilet in the morning. And again, I get that. I get that convenience is a huge factor for a lot of people. Also, privacy is a big one. So oftentimes, you need an environment where you can be vulnerable with your pronunciation. Not everybody is, but there are people who are, and not also everybody wants to practice with another person. And then finally, there's, I think, gamification. So a lot of these apps, not just accent reduction apps, but apps in general, they help you do a lot of things like earn points, unlock, levels. You basically get a dopamine hit of achievement while having fun with an interactive and engaging activities. And finally, like I said, the marketing can be very compelling too. They'll say stuff like scientifically proven methods and speech recognition technology and, so on and so forth. And let's be realistic, who wouldn't be tempted by such promises? I sit a lot, because I work, a lot with my students, and I am one of these people who has kind of a bad lower back. And despite me having a really, really good chair, it's really easy to get me when you say, look, we found this brand new exercise or brand new approach that helps, uh, coaches, consultants, people who work in front of their computers for many hours a day, fix their lower back pain in only 10 minutes a day. That gets me because I know what it's like to have really, really bad back pain. And likewise, if you really are a type of person who struggles with their pronunciation and accent, it's really, really easy for these marketers to say something that makes it super appealing. So that really is kind of what it boils down to. Now, as far as my personal experience with apps, I remember a couple of days ago I had a student, and she contacted me because she did spend some time working on her accent, and she used one of these accent reduction apps. So her main complaint was that she effectively did all the work. The app kept telling her that she was making great progress, and then in the end, she just couldn't hear it. People around her couldn't hear it. Her manager mentioned that her communication skills needed improvement, and she really thought that the app would be a nice fix. It had a lot of 5-star reviews. It, had words of praise everywhere where she looked online, but for her, it just didn't work. And she was still asked to repeat herself, in the meetings. And this app had given her a false sense of progress. That's just not okay in my book. And so the reason I think that these apps and accent reduction apps don't work is that most of them offer a generic one size fits all approach. That's the first thing. So first and foremost, I really think that a lot of promises made today that apps, software, and so on use, they really try to go and say everything is personalized while it really isn't. From the business side of things, it's much easier to scale and to increase scales if something doesn't take additional time. And something doesn't have to take additional time at all if it's generic. So this is exactly what a lot of programs do. They offer the same exercises for everyone, regardless of their native language, which creates specific accent patterns, regardless of the unique speech habits and pronunciation challenges, regardless of the specific context where you need clear communication. So it's as if going to a GP who hands you a general health tips for everyone. And of course, you would be really, really right to be frustrated. It just doesn't work like that. So one of my students, who was a financial analyst from Colombia, he spent months practicing American pronunciation on his app, and it's the same story that we mentioned with Maria. So he was getting perfect scores on all exercises, but clients were still struggling to understand him. And he just felt like he was practicing the wrong things entirely. And he was right. The app had him practicing sounds that weren't really causing communication problems. And it completely ignored the fact that he was fine for most of the individual sounds. He was troubled with his intonation. So Spanish speakers, on average, have flatter intonation compared to English speakers. And the app was trying to tell him, oh, you need to fix your ah, and you need to fix your ah, and you need to fix your r. And in reality, he spoke well. The only thing that he was missing was that intonation. The moment that, you start offering people something generic, they just, are not going to see those results. And also, there is something that is called a flawed feedback mechanism. So one of my students has mentioned that the app told him that his pronunciation was 98% correct. And this is just very difficult to assess. It's very difficult to put a number on this. Here's the thing. So these apps typically use very, very simplified speech recognition tech. That tech can do some things, but it's not omnipotent. So they can only detect whether individual sounds fall within broad acceptable perimeters, but not if, they can't really, recognize the nuance. They can't oftentimes recognize subtleties of stress, rhythm, and intonation. They fail to evaluate how sounds connect in flowing speech. And oftentimes, they give you false positive feedback, and that creates a misleading sense of progress. It is crucial, to use features that allow users to record their speech. If the speech isn't recorded, it just doesn't work that well. This recording is what enables, learners to compare their previous recordings to their later recordings and to native pronunciation so they can assess their progress. And one of the speech language pathologists who specialize in accent modification, this is Dr. Anderson. She explained in one of her blog posts, she said that these apps are essentially grading you on a technicality while missing the forest for the trees, So the real communication doesn't really happen one sound at a time. It really is about musicality of speech, the rhythm, the way that these sounds flow together. It's not just one thing over the other. And also the inability to address context and nuance. When I really think about it, I think that the biggest pitfall of these apps is the fact that they're completely detached from real-world communication context. So professional success doesn't really come from pronouncing isolated words perfectly in an app. It really comes from being confident when you speak clearly during high-pressure meetings, being understood on conference calls where there's a lot of background noise, where someone's dog is barking in the background, where someone's kid is crying, when, there is effective communication when emotions are high, and you really need to adapt the speaking style to a different professional situation. So apps simply cannot replicate the complexity of human interaction, at least not yet. So really, this one missing element is human element. There is beauty and an effectivity and efficacy in human coaching, personal coaching. There is deep personal connection and expression where these apps just can't address that. So feedback from a native speaker is really something that can provide personalized insight, and it really is something that can help learners improve their pronunciation accuracy. So these are just some of my thoughts that I had on the topic of accent introduction apps. I realize this is such a broad topic, and we could go on and create other episodes around this. However, this is just kind of a brief rundown of why I think accent reduction apps don't typically produce best results. I'm just thankful that you are tuning in and that you're listening to these thoughts, and I hope that some of these bits of information are useful to you. And if you ever decide to, pull the trigger and go for personalized, one-on-one accent coaching, I wanted to let you know that I do offer a free assessment where we can go ahead and spend about 15-20 minutes going through all of your questions, analyzing your speech, and you're going to know exactly what you need to do, how to do it, and you're going to know how much time you're going to need to actually improve your pronunciation. So once again, this was Nicola, the founder of the Internetic Method. I'm looking forward to speaking to you in another one, but for now, this is it. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.